All right, so today in algebra, it is a non-edgenuity day. Yeah, so sad. I know you are. So, what are we going to do? I'm going to talk about what makes something linear. I know it's so exciting. What makes something a line, and how can you tell if something is a line? So, what makes something linear? And then once we're done with that, then what I'm going to do is you are going to go watch these notes. Here's a link. So all of you are going to go on Schoology and click this link, and then you are going to download the notes here. If you are in class, and obviously you don't have to do Kami. Okay, you don't have to print it out because I just printed it out for you, and that's what you picked up just now. But you do have to submit it. Okay, so submissions, make sure that you submit it. It is technically due tomorrow night at 11:59. What I noticed with a lot of you with our last one was that you did it, you just forgot to submit it. That rhymes. But so just, I mean, that sucks, right? Like you actually did the work, but you're still getting a zero because you didn't put it in the computer, you didn't submit it online. So as soon as you finish, just submit it. Don't wait until the last minute, okay? And then all you online kids, make sure that you also take attendance as well. Okay, so that's what we are doing today. And I forgot to take attendance, so let me quickly do that right now before um, we start. Sorry, so Daisy, Grayson, Carrie, Cameron, Garrett, Cooper, Ashlyn, Deanna, Ella, Grant, Tia, Louise, Brooke, Jack, Melanie, Lou, Sheila, Catherine, Rowan, Kip, Emily, Jose, Vaughn, Nathan. Yay, we're all here. Okay. All right, I have no more papers for you. What is it? Okay. Let's go. All right, so today we're going to talk about whether or not something is linear or not linear. So when you read the word linear, what word do you really see? Line. Okay, so you know a line is linear. Okay, so linear just means it's a line. It's a straight line. So sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not obvious. Okay, so number one, yes or no, is this linear? Is it a straight line? Yes. Yes. You don't need to write this down, by the way, unless you really want to. You're not writing anything down right now. Okay, you're just listening. So I would say that yes, this is linear. And it also does ask why. So explain why, Garrett.
Because hold on. I don't have the right paper.
There is no paper.
Oh, no. Okay,
you're just watching.
It is linear because the x and the y value follow a set rule.
Oh my gosh, you made it so complicated. Yes, that's true. The x and the y value did follow a set rule, but you're making
parallel.
No, nothing was parallel.
Okay, never mind.
Louis?
It's a straight line.
It's a straight line. It looks like a straight line. If it looks like a straight line, then yes, it's linear. So this one, linear or non-linear? Non-linear because it's curved. It's not a straight line. So that's the most obvious. To see if something is linear or not, just look at it and then make that determination. But it becomes a little bit more complicated when you don't see a picture. When you see maybe something like a table. Okay, so this is where some of you are like, well, then why don't I graph this? Why don't I graph the points and draw the dots and connect the dots? Sure, but that takes a lot of effort. So here's the rule to see if something is linear, okay? You want to make sure there's a pattern. So up top, you see how from 0 to 2, you're adding 2, 2 to 4, you're adding 2, 4 to 6, you're adding 2. There's a rule, and it's the same rule. Now let's look at the bottom. 3 to 9, you're timesing 3. 9 to 27, you're timesing 3. 27 to 81, you're timesing 3. There's a rule, but it's not adding or subtracting. So I would say no, this is not linear, non-linear. And the reason why this is non-linear is because there's no adding or subtracting pattern. So there has to be a pattern, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. The bottom has to be an adding or subtracting pattern as well. So since this is a multiplying pattern, it's not linear. basically, if you have a adding or subtracting pattern, it's called a constant rate of change. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but let me show you this one. Okay, so I have another table. 14 to 24, I'm adding 10. 24 to 34, I'm adding 10. 34 to 44, I'm adding 10. Look at the bottom. 24 to 20, minus 4, minus 4, minus 4. Do you see how there's an adding and subtracting pattern on top? And there's an adding and subtracting pattern on the bottom. It doesn't have to be the same pattern. It just has to be a pattern of adding or subtracting. So what do you think about this? Linear or not?
Linear.
It's linear. So this is linear because there's an adding or subtracting pattern. Oh, there's an adding or subtracting pattern, but I'm never going to write there's an adding or subtracting pattern. Okay. What I'm going to write instead is because there is a constant rate of change. That is a mathematical term. I know that it sounds super complicated, but we just write CRC. There's a constant rate of change. Yes, Daisy?
Isn't it a linear function that there's a multiplication representation?
No. Multiplication or division rule is if something is quadratic. So that you're just like, what? Yeah, we haven't learned it yet. So we're starting from the basics, okay? So the rule is if you have an adding or subtracting pattern, it's a straight line. But if it's not an adding or subtracting pattern, then just don't worry about it. Does that make sense? Okay. You know this one. The next three, we've done this before. Determine whether something is linear or not linear. Well, didn't we say that if it's linear, you have the equation y equals mx plus b? Like, do you remember that from last year? A straight line, all those lines that you graphed last year, they were y equals mx plus b. So take a look at this one. First of all, I don't have y solved for, so I can go ahead and just solve for y. I would add 1/3 x on both sides. So I get y equals 4 and 1/3 x minus 7. So y equals mx plus b. So what do you think? Linear or not linear?
Linear.
It is linear. It follows the y equals mx plus b form. Who cares it's a fraction? This is a -7 or a -7. It doesn't have to be a +7. So I would say this is linear because it follows y equals mx plus b form. Okay, let's do this one. I need to solve for y. So what do you think I need to move to the other side first? 8x. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Subtract because it's a plus. Okay, so I get 6 minus 8 and 2/5 x equals 3y. And I divide by 3, divide by 3. Okay, so I get like 2 minus some number x, I don't even know what it is, but who cares, equals y. They're not asking me to solve for the equation. They just want me to, or they're just asking me, is it in y equals mx plus b form? Is this in y equals mx plus b form? Yes. So is it linear? Yes. So linear because it's in y equals mx plus b form. Like I didn't even have to solve it all the way. I don't have to figure out what this divided by this is because who cares? They're not asking me to solve it. They're just asking me, is it in the right form? Okay. Last one, this one. I have like parentheses and a bunch of things. I don't really know how to do the math. You don't know how to do this math and how to do that until probably like January. So just look at it and take an educated guess. Do you think it's going to be in y equals mx plus b form? No. Well, because there's two y's, right? Like how there are two y's on the same side. And technically, if you're like, I really don't know, well, think if you have two things with no symbol in between, you're multiplying. So y times y is y squared. So definitely not in y equals mx plus b form because there's a y squared there. So I would say not linear because it's not in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, so guys, these are the three rules to see if something is a straight line. First rule, is it a straight line? Does it look straight? Second rule, something called a constant rate of change, a CRC. Is there an adding and subtracting pattern on the top and the bottom? Because if it's not adding and subtracting on the top or the bottom, then it's not linear. Third rule, does it follow y equals mx plus b? That's basically it. Okay? Is there something else I need to go over? No, that's it. So those are the 3 rules. Those are the 3 things that you are going to learn